The captain passed his blood-red helm to his subordinate and began to slowly trudge down the hill alone. His footfalls were heavy and his shoulders down. He looked at points as if he would fall to one side or the other. So ungainly was his stagger down that hill, toward the place he never thought he would stand, to the place he never wanted to be, to her dead body. As he approached, he felt all of the weight of the years on his shoulders. Every last decade, every last second of his long, long life felt like a mountain on his back this day. He looked at anything but her. His pauldrons with the blood-red tear on them, his mighty gloves, one being a power fist, to the sky above, covered in pillars of smoke from lingering fires as it was, but calm and tranquil. It only made things worse. He had not been able to do it, even after Baal. The disconnect to reality was too stark, the skies filling with Xenos of a blinding array. Not when they hit and so many of his brothers died. Not then. Why now? He did not know, and he did not want to know. The grinding emptiness of chairs around tables, names ceremoniously erased from lockers, the list of his brethren who would never raise bolter or chainsword in the name of the Angel and the Imperium again. He had witnessed it all, understood it all, accepted it all. But this was the final straw. The day he never thought he would see. The day he never imagined would come. And the floodgates opened. Centuries of conflict and madness and battle and loss now overwhelmed him. The lone armored man approached his destination, and like a martinet with its strings cut, he toppled forward onto his knees, like all vitality had been removed from him, washed away by the outpouring of grief. He could walk no further now that he could see her, now that he could not avoid seeing her, as he rested his head against her cold form, now that he could not avoid seeing what they had done to her. And it began, quietly at first, tears began to leak, then more and more like a river. His breathing escaped his control and came in shudders as he opened his arms to place his open palms on her, as he tried to hug her with all of his remaining might. She was gone. He began to whisper, knowing she would never answer him, never show sign of life again. Do you remember how we met? That day on the flight deck, preparing for the drop when you would not let me aboard. Not until I had proven myself to you. The others laughed so hard at me. I admit, I started embarrassed and then turned angry, but you always knew how to make me laugh in the end. How long we played together, until the final klaxon went off. Our first campaign. Barely knew my bolter from my braces then. How many times did you save me just in that one campaign? And every campaign since. It's why I refused promotion or transfer time and again, old girl. So I could be with you. But Baal changed everything. You have to know that. There were simply so few of us left that I had no choice. If the decision led to this, then I swear I will hate every day I have to wear the mantle of captain. I wish you could hear me and tell me it isn't so. Some sign. Anything. You turned the tide again, old girl. Like so many times before. You turned the tide. We're on our knees. But you came, unbidden, but you came, as always. We were pinned down and our attack had faltered. decapitating strike turned into a pitched battle. I underestimated their will. We were low on ammunition, and you came. I know it was you who led the rest, despite being left behind. We thought we were protecting you, but should have known you'd not be left out. Not while we were dying. If you had not hit that flank, girl, we could have been wiped out. So many of my brothers lived to date because of you, girl. But why did you then do it? Why take on the night? Why take on the night? Why? We were saved, and you could have taken us out of there. I know you could have seen things better than us, knew what was happening better than us, with your eyes. But why? A glorious kill, old girl. But the cost was too high. Too high. Look what they have done to you. The warrior pushed his head up against the metal sides of what remained of a thing that had fought with his chapter from before the angel himself was found during the Great Crusade. The mangled and melted wreckage of the mutilated Landraider still smoked, but no spark, no light, no single sign of activity, of life, came from what remained. And he wept, like he had not been allowed, permitted, or felt possible to weep for centuries. She was gone. I will miss you, girl, so much. I am Voldemort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and feel of the Warhammer 40k universe. As we go into our second entry for a War Gear Wednesday, I could do nothing other than introduce the most important vehicle in the history of the Grimdark, both the figures and of course the lore, the Landraider. Now, for this simple introduction, I would like us to lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Landraiders. The ground shakes with mechanized fury as the Landraiders of the Adeptus Astartes roar into battle. Mighty battle tanks so large and powerful they can crush smaller vehicles beneath their armored bulk. These ancient war engines double as transports that bear Space Marines safely across the battlefield to tear the heart from the enemy army. The Landraiders' heritage predates even the Imperium, yet it remains one of the most destructive machines in the Space Marines' arsenal. Protected by bonded ceramite and adamantine armor plating, the Landraider is impervious to all but the most devastating weaponry. Equally impressive are its armaments. 2 sets of twin las cannons and 2 cowled heavy bolters allow the construct to annihilate vehicles and infantry squads alike. Given that the Landraider has enough transport capacity for not only a full squad of Space Marines, but also the champions who lead them, it is more like a mobile fortress than a mere tank. It is therefore the foremost method of swiftly repositioning squads of Terminator-armoured battle brothers in the field. When a Landraider tears its way into the enemy lines only to disgorge such a band of elite warriors, it is a powerful foe indeed, who can stand their ground for even a matter of moments. Although Landraiders were once produced in great numbers, there are now few Forge Worlds still able to manufacture them. As a result, the Landraider is one of the Adeptus Astartes' most valued weapons of war. This is not least because the Landraider's machine spirit is so much stronger than that of lesser vehicles. Indeed, the Tech Marines believe that an indomitable part of the Omnissiah's essence resides within the impenetrable adamantium hull of each of these impressive vehicles. Regardless of its value in matters of faith, the Landraider's machine spirit is a weighty asset. It allows the tank to function with a smaller number of crew than any other vehicle of comparable size, for it is capable of taking control of engines, weaponry, or other systems as the situation permits. Tales persist of Landraiders that have fought on even after their crew are dead, or that are so warlike that they will take any opportunity to grind the foe under their tracks. End quote. The Landraider. The lines harken back to the brutality of World War I, thus again proving that the story of Warhammer is actually told in its figures, a language of imagery and imagination. Based on the Mark I British battle tank without turrets to humanize it to a certain extent, the Landraider is an original of the Rogue Trader era and is the heart and soul of Warhammer, as much as is the Dreadnought. Nothing screams Warhammer as much as a Landraider. Nothing. Not even a Space Marine these days. Looking at you, Halo games. For the Landraider is a brutal, thuggish weapon. Its lines so stark, so simple, so brutal, that anyone even glimpsing a Landraider knows that the times that generated it, the way it is used, the way it was given form, speaks more about that setting and that place and time than any amount of sophistry. The Landraider is exactly what it was always meant to be, a sign of the Imperium, a sign of humanity's desperate bid to survive by surrounding itself in inches and feet of metal and armor. It is an analogy for the entirety of the Imperium, boxed in and slowly moving forward, desperately hoping no one will find the weak points and destroy everyone inside. There is so much to say about it, how it was found, the standard template construct which allowed it to be created, where it was built, how many were built, what variants there are. And in the future, we will get into all of these nuances, these sumptuous and wonderful details about the most loved vehicle in the Warhammer universe, the grim darkness of the future. I personally like to think of the machine spirit of a Landraider like a dog, like man's best friend, wagging its tail when necessary, growling and shouting and barking at its enemy when needed, and desperately doing anything it can to defend its masters, the Space Marines. Hence I call my Landraider Rover, because to me, as to the Space Marines, it is a living and breathing thing. I have been Voldemort, your faithful servant. I hope you've enjoyed my introduction to the Landraider. If so, then please do consider liking and subscribing. If you are a regular gentle listener, please do consider supporting us on Patreon or with a one-off donation. Whew, that was a bit heavy. Yeah. No, I think I'll leave the blubbing out. No idea why that took such effect, to be honest. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun.